Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today, Masechtas Menachot Daf Samach Beis. We are going to begin on Samach Beis and Aleph, about 10 lines from the top. B'shtei alechem, b'shnei kisyat seres, v'chul. So we were learning in the Mishnah, that lengthy Mishnah, that told us that there's certain things in which required tenufa, some things required hagasha. And the Mishnah said regarding the shtei halechem, shtei kisiyat seres, kesad hu oiseh. So how do we do it? So nice and shtei halechem al gabi shnei kvasim. So the Mishnah said they would take the breads and they would put it on top of the kvasim. Umaniach shtei yadav lamata, and they would put their hands below it and they would shake in all different directions because the pasuk says asher hunaf, asher huram. Fine. So on this, the Gemara says as follows: Tonaban, v'hein if a kohen oisam, so the kohen will wave them al lechem habikurim. So what do we learn out from here? Yochol yeni kavasim al gabi halechem. You would think that the kavasim should go on the top. Talmud leimer al shnei kavasim. So it has to be on the shnei kavasim, which is mashma that the breads go above the shnei kavasim. If that's true, al shnei kvasim, yochol lechem al gabi kvasim. So if when it says al shnei kvasim, you would think that the bread should be on top of the kvasim, which sounds like what we said before. It was Talmud Leimer al lechem habikurim. So based on that, it's nishtakil hakosov. The pasuk basically evens out. On one hand, it's pretty clear that the breads go on top because it says al shnei kvasim, but nonetheless it also says al lechem habikurim, that it goes on top of the lechem. So where's the lechem? So if any udei im lechem al gabi kvasim, kvasim al gabi lechem. So ma'amatzinu. So we can learn from a ma'amatzinu. B'chol makoim, in all situations, specifically by the miluyim, is lamal lechem is lamala. The breads were put above. So avkan lechem lamal, the bread goes above the shnei kvasim. So heicha, exactly where exactly are we talking about when we say it's above? What exactly does that mean? Okay, so you can, if you look at Rashi, heicha ashchan lechem de lechem lamal. Where do we actually find that the bread was above? So Marpapa said b'meluyim. So we said by the meluyim, as in says in Vayikraches, but umetzal hamatzois, and from the baskets asher leftei Hashem ad v'yosim al hachelavim v'al shoy kayomin. So we see by the meluyim that the bread was on the top. So too over here by the shnei kavasim, the bread is the shtei lechem's on top. So Rav Yosi ben Hamashulam oimer kavasim lamal. No. The kvasim actually go above. Uma ni mekayim al shnei kvasim. Well, al shnei kvasim is mashma that the breads go above the kvasim. So what are you talking about? No, that's only the haitzi shiva. What does that mean? What's the haitzi shiva? So Rashi says shiva is referring to shiva kvasim shel oila. These 7 other lambs, haboyin al halechem b'chayvis hayoyim latzeres. So these are actually is a carbon oila. There were 7 other kvasim that were brought, as the pasuk says in V'chav Gimel, v'gravtem al halechem into unim tenufa im halechem. So those do not require tenufa together with the lechem. So therefore, that's all it's going to tell you, that the shnei kvasim do require tenufa. However, the shivas hakvasim tamimim, which is it's a carbon oila, so those there's no tenufa at all. It's not coming to tell you. It means that it's coming to tell us where the lechem should be in proximity. No, the bread is below. So what does it mean when it talks about the shnei kavasim? It's coming to exclude the shiva. So Chanina ben Chachinoi Yomer. So therefore we have 2 different shittas. The bread's above, the bread's below. Okay. A third opinion. Maniach shtei halechem bein yerchaseihem shel kavasim. Actually, what you do is you put the bread between the thighs of the kvasim. Umenif. V'nimsa mekayim shnei mikros halolu. So you're kind of like helping both psukim. Lechem is al gabi kvasim. Kvasim al gabi halechem. Says Rashi, she mashkiv hakvasim al masnehem al yadav v'noisen halechem al yerech hatachtoin. They're put on the bottom, like the hindquarters. Lechem al kvasim al yerech hatachtoin. V'hakvasim al halechem yerech elyoin. Mutal al halechem oidan chayin ma'iri. We're talking about what's still alive. So basically, depending if you look at the front, the hind, the forelegs, so then the kvasim are above the breads. But if you look at the hind legs, then it's the opposite. Amar Rabbi, we're not gonna do this even for a regular king by sticking bread between the thighs of an animal. It doesn't make any sense. So this is also a compromise. It can't be above because the pasuk says below. It can't be below. So instead you put it side by side, just side by side. But it says on, which is mashma atop. So Amrulay Rav Chisda Rav Hamnuna Rav Hamnuna Rav Chisda Rebbe Tamei the Amr Al Besamuch. When it says the word al, it doesn't mean mamish on top. It just means next to. The sign is we learn like this: that you should put on the maracha this the levaina zaka. You should put this frankincense. So Rabbi Omer, what does that mean? Al b'samach. It just means next to it. Ato Omer al b'samach inu al mamish on it. Kishu Omer v'sakaisa al ha'aron as a pareiches. It talks about how the aron will cover up the pareiches, the curtain. So Avi Omer al b'samach. So let's look at Rashi. Al is b'samach sheyitin habazichin shel. You put the bezichin of the spoonfuls of the levaina next to the breads. And when it says Aaron, the Aaron was by the paroiches, the lekel meimar al mamish, doesn't mean it was literally on it. The paroiches machitzahi, because it's a wall. So how could you say it's on top of it, right? It's a wall. Lahavdu being kaidish being kaidish gadashim. So obviously, when it says that it was by the Aaron, doesn't mean it was above it. It means Shahai Eitzel Aaron, just was next to it. So Achinami al Shnei Hakvasim al the Samach. When it says on the Shnei Kvasim, it doesn't mean mamish on it. It just means next to. That's what Samach means. Okay, let's look at question 9. Chanina ben Chachino Yoimer Menech Shtei Halechem ben Yerchavais. Okay, Madua Huskuk Lezeh Ha'ifin. Why do we have to say that? Because you have to seemingly have contradictory psukim. One pasuk says lechem al kvasim, one says kvasim al lechem. So therefore, by doing it this way, you're mekayim shneim. But Rabbi said that isn't possible because it's certainly not the way even to behave to a melech basav adam. It's, you don't present the food that way to a regular king. To Hashem, Melech Malchem Malchem, King of Kings, of course. Instead, what does he say? He just says that it should be next to, right? Menich zeh b'tzad zeh, because the al b'samachu. When it says the word al, it just means next to. That's all it means. Okay. TB14. Let's see. Okay, so here we go. There's 4 answers. I wrote Lamal min carbon. Okay, that's correct. Lamata. Minutes. I wrote B'toicha carbon. It really means Bain. Let's get the language. Bain. Bain Yerchai Sehen. Yarchoi Sehen. Or Minatzad. Okay, so that's definitely correct. That's Samach Beis Amud Aleph. That's TB14. TA is a good question. TA 11 is a little bit of a different question. Be'elu Gimel Mekaimais. Now we got one of them. Do we see that all means Samach? So the only one I got right, this is what, TA 11. So let's mark this down. TA 11. The only one I got right was the Paroiches al Aron, okay? Because we understand that couldn't mean anything else. And then the other two, of course, had to do with the other one I should have gotten right was the Lechem al Hakvasim, right? So the Lechem rules side by side. That was a little bit harder. Or the Levaina al Hamareches. That the Levaina isn't on it, but next to the Mareches. Okay, so those are the answers there. Okay, good. All right, let's move on. So, let's continue where it says the two dots. So, Moich maybe mal mayrid. So, when it comes to the waving, it's in all different directions, kind of similar to a lulav on Sukkot. The Gemara says, so we bring it back and forth because, like the winds, Hashem is in control of the winds. Up and down, Hashem is in control of the heavens and the earth. That's why we're shaking that way. To protect us from bad winds, from bad dews. We learn from here that even shiri mitzvah akanas apronius, even something which is like a sidebar of a mitzvah, is still able to hold back the pranios of these bad winds. After all, the tanufa shiri mitzvah, right? So the truth is, a lot of people don't realize it's not that the lulav and esrog, that's the mokor, because it says kachdem. It's actually it's based on the mitzvah of doing the tenufa on karbanos. Rab Acha bar Yaakov Mamatila Maisila Umachi Hachi Vermegir Be'enai Desatna. He used to poke his lulav and say, "Hey, Satan, this go in your eye, right? In the eyes of Satan." Vulav Milsi. It's not a good thing. You don't want to start up with Satan. So you do mitzvahs. You do the mitzvahs properly. You do everything properly. You don't start showing off and saying, I'm in control of you, my Yitzhahara. I'm in complete control over you, Satan. Don't want to do that. Tanurabana. So that's verbatim. The Gemara in Sukkah says the exact same thing. Okay. As we can see on the side. This is Sukkah, third parak, inside. So Zivchi Shalmit Tzibor, when it comes to the carbon Tzibor of a Shlomim, so Tu'un and Tunufa, it does require waving. Li'achar Shchita, after the Shechting, but Tunufasan K'moy Shehain. Dear Rabbi, and when you do the Tunufa, it's K'moy Shehain, which means it should be the entirety of the whole thing, the whole animal. So Rashi says shleimim. You have to do tenufa on the entire animal when we're talking about a zivchi shalmit tzibor. Okay, even after the shchita. Because of a shaik. It's not true. After the shchita, you don't have to do the whole animal, just the chaz of a shaik, which are designated parts. So b'may kimifgi. So Amrle Rav Chisda Rav Hamnuna v'Yamrla Rav Hamnuna Rav Chisda. Exactly. How far do you go when you make a drasha? Do you go both ways completely, or do you stop only for that point and nothing else? Rabbanan Savri dain mino memina. What is that? So ma'aziv chishalmi yachid. We know when it comes to a yachid, who of course also requires smicha to unin tenufa liyachar shchita. We know that you have to do shchita there too. So avziv chishalmi tzibur to unin tenufa liyachar shchita. Okay, so we learn out just like by Shalmi Yachid, you have to do Tenufa after the Shechita, so too by Tzibor. Umina. And then we continue. Ma hasam b'chaz v'shaik, av hachanam b'chaz v'shaik. So it's the same din. It's only the chaz v'shaik, because when it comes to the shalmi yachid, it's only the chaz v'shaik. V'rav savar doin mino v'ukibatu. Stop. Ma zivchi shalmi yachid tunin tenufa u'yachar shchita. Av zivchi shalmi tzira tunin tenufa u'yachar shchita. And that's it. We don't go any further. V'ukibatu. Hasam hu the chaz v'shaik. Only by the carbon shalmi yachid, by the shalmi yachid, we'll say that it's only the chaz v'shaik. Avha kamay shehein. Kamay shehein b'chayim. Just as while it was alive, so too after it's dead, it's the same thing. So what is this referring to? So the Mishnah, which we saw already, says this important detail. The Mishnah says that there's 3 minim, 3 mitzvos. So he said that when it comes to the shalmi, simply shalmi yachid, it does require smicha because it's a carbon yachid, not a carbon seymour. And the tenuf is only after the shechita, but not while it's alive. But the zivchi shalmi tzibur, it does require tenufa not just b'chayim, but also shchutin. Now, how do we know shchutin? We know shchutin that a shalmi tzibur needs tenufa after the shechita from the shalmi yachid. However, we don't completely compare the two. Obviously, they're not the same because there's no tzmicha by a shalmi tzibur or by shalmi yachid. But also, again, that's it. We don't go further than that, and therefore it's true by the shalmi yachid it's the chaz v'shaik. However, when it comes to the tzibur, it would be as it was while it was alive. You did tenufa while it was alive by the shalmi tzibur, and it was complete. Obviously, because you didn't shechti yet. So even after shechti, you still have to do tenufa in that way. Question 10. Is a carbon tun tenufa machayim lachar shchita? So that is again the shalmi zivchi shalmi tzibor. It requires the tenufa while it's alive, but also after shechted. Uma meinif achar shchita. So it's a machlokus. It's either the chaz v'shaik or kamay shehein shleimin, right? Which means the whole animal. Okay, so it's that's the machlokus. Okay. All right, that was question 10. And that's going to be the last question there. Let's keep on moving. Kamoy shehein b'chaim. Okay. B'chaim. Sabach beis amud beis. Okay, let's keep on going. We get all the way down to the bottom. Next Mishnah we'll see tomorrow. Who really learn everything. So if you learn everything, l'chayra, then just like the shalmi yachid is the chaz v'shaik, so shalmi tzibur shall also be the chaz v'shaik. Behind time the Rabbi, because ki hasam ma hasam davar shematan l'kayin. Why are we doing by the shalmi yachid just the chaz v'shaik? Because that's the only part that's given to the kohanim. Because the rest is given to the rest of it's given to the Baal. Av hacha davar shematan l'kayin, which is referring to everything, right? When it comes, which is the whole animal, right? The whole thing, and that's the distinction. So by shalmi yachid, the reason why is because it's only the chaz v'shaik is given to the kain, but shalmi tzibur, the whole thing is given to the tzibur. So as Rashi says, ma shalmi yachid tunin tenufa shechin shemachan l'srichlei. So it's actually, let's look at this. Malo holan b'shalmi yachid davar shematan l'kayin tayin tenufa v'hainu kulan shleimin. That's by when it's by its shalmi tzibur. Of a shalmi yachid ein l'kayin el chaz v'shaik. He only gets the chaz v'shaik. Okay, so that's the reason to make that distinction. Ravina omer dekol yam adamina v'uka batra. We should stop. So I had a time the Rabbanan shalmehem ribuahu. So when it says by the shalmi yachid, the pasuk in Vayikra Zayin says as chazir tenuv v'shaika truma lokachtim yes b'nei Yisrael mezivchei shalmehem. Since it says shalmehem, is mashma loshen rabim. Loimer to say al chazir v'shaik shel shalmi tzibor shi'noifu. It's telling you that really you're right. You should compare completely. You only partially. But in this case, because it says shalmehem, it's coming to tell you that also when it comes to the shalmi tzibor, also only the chaz of shaykaskim is we waive only that, not the whole thing. Shimon Oimer shloish minim tunin shalosh mitzvahs shnayim b'chol echad v'shlishis ein bohen ve'elhin zivchei shel miyachid zivchei shel mitzibor, which you spent most of the time talking about those two already, and then we have Asham Tzara. So, as we mentioned already in the Mishnah, zivchei shel miyachid is tunin smicha, because again, smicha is required only on a carbon yachid, not a carbon sibor. As we said, the tenufa is chayim. Chaim, while it's alive, you do smicha. But tenufa shchuta, you only do tenufa while it is already shechted. Ve'ein behen tenufa chaim, and the tenufa is also, as we said, for sure, l'kol yalma, right? It is just the chaza, just chaz of shaykh. Okay, that's for sure. Zivchei shel mitzibor tu'unin tenufa chaim v'shchutin. As we said both times, the ein behen smicha. And the question again, as we said, certainly when it's Mechaim, you do Tenu for the whole thing. The question is, Shchutin, just the Chaz of Shaykh, or the whole thing. And then Asham Tzayra, Tu'un Smicha, because it's a Yachid that's doing it, so you need Smicha. The Tenufa Chai, Ve'ein Bo Tenufa Shochot. So here's the opposite. The Tenufa is only done while it's alive, but not after it's already shechted. Okay. So that's basically just a quote from our Mishnah for the most part. So the truth is, why don't we say that when it comes to a Shalmi Yachid, you should have to do Tenufa while it's alive? We only do it while it's shechted, just the Chaz of Shaykh. But maybe you should be shechted alive. You should do Tenufa while it's alive too, because it doesn't require smicha. Chaim wants alive. There's no smicha at all, right? There's no smicha. Tu'unin tenufa chaim, but nonetheless, tenufa still needs to be done, not just at the time of shechita, but even while it's still alive. So zivchei shel we see yachid shetunin smicha chaim, and shetunin tenufa chaim, right? So l'chayra, you should have to do tenufa by a shalmi yachid also while it's alive. So miyad rachmana gabi zivchei shalmi tzibur oisam with his shalmim. Shalmi Yachid. So it's basically just telling you through Exersa Kosev that the requirement for Shalomim to do Tenufa while it's alive is exclusive to a Shalmei Tzibor, but not to a Shalmi Yachid. Okay, and now you can say this way: V'yuzivchei Shalmi Tzibor tunin smicha mekav chaimer. Maybe the Shalmi Tzibor should have smicha. Again, we only do smicha on a yachid, but not by a tzibor. But maybe through a kavachayim, you still should. What's the kavachayim? Maziv Shalmi yachid shein tunin tenufa chayim tunin smicha. So madach when it comes to Shalmi yachid. Now there's no tenufa while it's alive, but we do smicha. So zivchei Shalmi Tzibor. Shetunin tenufa chayim, where tenufa needs to be done while it's alive. Enu din shetun smicha. So maybe the Shalmi Tzibor does require smicha. Now, Rabina, Gemiri, we have the tradition that shtei smichos b'tzibor. There's actually only two situations in which we will ever do smicha when it comes to a carbon tzibor. Typically, it's only when it comes to a carbon yachid that smicha is done, but not by carbon tzibor, with two exceptions. What are the two exceptions? So Rashi helps me out big time. So halach mushma Sinai, by Par Helm Davar Shel Tzibor, it says V'samchu Zikna Eda, as well as the Seir Hamishtalech, the scapegoat, right? V'samach Aaron Eshtei Yadav. So he does smicha there too. So the only times that we ever find by carbon Tzibor in which we will do smicha is dafka by the Seir Hamishtalech on Yom Kippur, and the Par Helm Davar Shel Tzibor when the Beis makes an erroneous psak, and we in turn follow an Isser Kares b'shayging because of it. The Asham Tzayra Tu'unin Tenufa. So maybe the Asham Tzayra should also require Tenufa while it's shachad. Why do we say it's only Tenufa while it's alive, not afterwards? After all, B'kabel Chaymer Mazav Shalmi Sibo Shalmi Yachid Shein Tunin Tenufa Chayim Tunin Tenufa Shchutin. So we don't say when it comes to the Shalmi Yachid that you do Tenufa while it's alive, but you do when it's shechted. So Asham Tzayra Tunin Tenufa Chay. And it didn't for shachot. So chayra, this should be a raya. This should be a good kavachaymer. That when it comes to asham mitzayra, the din should be you have to do tenufa also once after shechtin. So miyad rachmana gabi simchay shami yachid. Oisai oisam yuti asham mitzayra. Is dafka when it comes to this situation where you do the tenufa after the shechita, but excluding anything else, namely the asham mitzayra. Tanaman chamisha shehaviu karban echad. Let's say you have 5 people that brought 1 carbon. Echad meinif al yidei kulam. One could do tenufa on everyone's behalf. Va'isha, when it comes to a woman, koin meinif al yada. So even when a woman is mechuyev to have tenufa, doesn't mean that she does the tenufa. The koin does it on her behalf. V'chein hashalech karban oisav b'medina siyam koin meinif al yadav. So even though you're not around, so how are you supposed to do smicha? The baal is supposed to do smicha. Okay, so the kohen will do it on your behalf. Okay, Adkan.